there is no close substitute for water.
It's the most precious resource we have.
We are not treating it as a crisis when we should be treating it as a crisis.
Imagine if tomorrow we cured cancer and in 100 years there were still 1 million kids dying of cancer. It would be unthinkable. But that's the situation we find ourselves in with water.
The government has failed in telling the population the truth about the situation that we are facing.
About 7.7 billion people have inherited the Earth. Almost 2 billion of us are struggling to survive without clean drinking water. The water crisis isn't imminent. It isn't looming. It's here, now.
The UN estimates that by 2025, 1.8 billion people will be living in water-stressed regions.
People are not going to be starving and dying instantly. They're going to be moving. They won't have the resources to live where they're at.
Contrary to popular thought, this crisis isn't just a developing world problem. It is already beginning to impact everyone everywhere. Our changing climate is less forgiving, keeping more water for itself. Pollution is corrupting our supplies. Infrastructures are failing faster than they can be repaired. And every day there are more people in the world all thirsting for water.
More often than not, a water crisis isn't an act of nature, it's an act of humankind. By not planning, by not using the right technologies, and by not acting soon enough, we set ourselves up to fail.
It's a truly daunting crisis. But what if its solutions were already at hand? Right now, all around the globe, an army of visionaries and innovators is working to reimagine and reinvent water systems to generate, supply, and clean the water we all depend on for our very lives.
The water challenges facing the world really fall into 3 categories. First is the scarcity of water. Second is building resilient infrastructure against climate change. And third is doing all that in a way that's affordable for society.
The problem with this crisis is the water that's drinkable is going to start disappearing, and the water that's not drinkable is going to start appearing everywhere.
There are solutions. It's just a matter of bringing them to bear on the problem, and we can fix it.
We are running against the clock in terms of solving these issues. In a sense, it breaks my heart that we have the solutions, right, and then we can't get them out fast enough.
The demand for water to sustain not only the population but the lifestyle that we have has grown just tremendously, but we're still trying to do things the way we've done them in the past.
Back around the turn of the century, really everybody was responsible for their own sewage. They were responsible for their own water. They drilled a well, dug a well, or they got water out of a creek, and then they used a pit latrine or a sewage lagoon behind the house. Of course, there were public health issues with that. People were getting sick, and so the governments around the world kind of stepped in and said that this is an intrinsic government function. We need to provide for the safety and welfare of the community, and money's really no object. So they ended up with these incredibly expensive sewer systems where there's a pipe to everybody's house, there's water pipe to everybody's house, there's a sewer pipe to everybody's house, incredibly complex networks of systems that get old and all have to be replaced, and huge expense associated with, but it provided a safe environment. It dealt with the public health issues associated with that.
Attempting to engineer our way out of trouble is deepening the problem. As we throw more and more resources at outmoded infrastructure, the challenge is to let go of an older, inefficient system and start to open our minds to new ways of managing water. Nothing focuses the mind like a crisis. So when Flint, Michigan faced the shocking crisis of lead contamination in its drinking water, activists not only demanded change, but actively sought creative solutions to the problem. One such creatively focused mind belongs to rapper, actor, and entrepreneur Jaden Smith.
My motivation around water started when I was about 11 years old, and it came from me learning about the environment from my teachers in school. it got to the point where I really wanted to make an active change, and I wanted to do something that could make a difference in the world. I always wanted to go above and beyond and just go across the world and make an impact and make a change. You know, I want to put a filtration system in Africa. I want to put a filtration system in India. As I started to evolve these ideas, I started to realize that we have problems so close to home. We have water sanitation issues that are right here in our backyard that need to be addressed. And seeing the effect that this crisis has had on everyone in Flint, Michigan, when you see the kids there and when you see the elderly people that still they can't use the water that's coming out of the pipes, it's heart-wrenching. We wanted to give back to that community and purify the water for people who don't have access to clean water. That is why we did the water box in Flint. What it does is it filters water and it delivers 10 gallons of clean water every 60 seconds. It's specifically made to filter out the lead, and we have people on site that are testing the water every single day. The entire plan and the goal to make it work here first, and then to take it places across the world that are having the same issues and say, okay, well maybe this is not a lead problem over here, so we can change the configuration of the machine. The goal is for those specific places so that it will work efficiently just as it does in Flint.
Water is viewed as a body on the planet, but really at its heart it's a local issue because we have to deal with it city by city, town by town. So what we see is that people who are really at the coalface, who are struggling with drought or edges and the fringes that are really innovating, and that's where the future lies.
One innovator on one such fringe is Beth Koigi, who had to think outside the box when her well ran dry.
When I was doing my undergraduate, I think I was tired of getting on and off waterborne diseases. So I started making my own water filter in my dorm to kill or remove all bacteria. I started going to community with it, showing people how to make a simple filter in your house, because actually filters are not that cheap in Kenya. And in 2016, Kenya was facing a huge drought, and you felt that people now didn't see filters as a solution because they ask filter. The only choice here is to fetch water from the river. Children are sent to the river the whole day so they don't attend school. The water has high level of chemical contaminants. So basically you cannot drink that water. So we were looking at something specifically that is able to utilize the humidity in air.
Frustrated with her own experience of watching water scarcity ravage her country, Beth looks to nature to solve the problem.
Getting water from air has never been a new concept in nature. There are some Namibian beetles that actually have its drinking water from the atmosphere. There's 6 times more water around the world. So that is a huge resource that is yet to be properly tapped.
She designed a machine that extracts clean water from the atmosphere, and she calls it Magic. Beth took her invention to the Ark Children's Orphanage so kids could focus on education instead of walking miles for water.
Technology is actually very simple. It works the same as the refrigerator and an air conditioner. The air is pulled in by a fan and then passed through a condenser coil. That's where the condensing happens. We just came from a very dry season, so this was the only source of drinking water for these children. As long as you have air, you can have clean drinking water.
Technological innovation isn't enough in places where the primary obstacle is simple as it is elusive: money.
Today, in 2019, it's 1 million children a year under the age of 5 die because they lack access to the very first water collection. Very rural village in Zambia. I was with this 14-year-old girl. She picked up the jerry can, I picked up a jerry can, and we walked off together with an interpreter. And we walked about a mile to this bore well to fill these jerry cans. I asked her, you know, what are you going to do when you grow up? Are you going to live here in this village? And she looked around. She's like, no, I'm not staying here. She goes, I'm going to Lusaka. I'm going to the big city. She's like, I'm going to be a nurse. It reminded me of being 14 and with Ben Affleck and saying, we're going to go to the big city of New York and we're going to be actors. And I was just brought back to that feeling. And it wasn't until I drove away that it been for someone having the foresight to sink this bore well a mile from this kid's house. She wouldn't have any hope for any type of future whatsoever. She would be spending her entire day not in school, but
please welcome Matt Damon and Gary White. I read one of the stories from your organization where there was a woman who was paying $60 a month to get bottled water delivered to her so that she could have something to drink. Through your program, she got
Exactly.
Which is a simple and yet insane concept that nobody has thought of that. Is it that simple, giving access to money to make their own water source?
And then they participate in their own solution. They give themselves, they fix their own problems.
With water.org, what we do is we break down the barriers between people and safe water and sanitation. We're able to help them with financing so that they can afford filters at the household level, so that people can enjoy the fact not just that they don't have to walk for water anymore, but they also have safe potable water. Having raised and deployed about $27 million in philanthropic capital, that has unleashed $1.1 billion in these microloans so that people can get the water and sanitation solutions that best meet their needs.
The real success story for us in this entire endeavor has been the fact that the loans that we make pay back at 99%. And that is astonishing to know that these are the poorest people on earth, and all they want is if you nudge the markets toward them a little bit and give them the dignity to solve their own problem, they will. And if you think of them instead of as a charity case, as a customer with their own economic citizenship, then you're going to be floored by what they do. And we've done over 3 million of these loans now, so that 99% number is very real.
Of course, access to clean water is only part of the equation. A healthy and sustainable future also depends on solving an equally urgent aspect of the crisis: sanitation. According to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, poor sanitation causes more than 1,200 deaths of children under 5 every single day. That's more than AIDS, measles, and tuberculosis combined. Although the flush toilet and central sewer systems are considered by many to be the gold standard for safe sanitation, the solutions enjoyed by developed countries cannot simply be scaled down for poorer nations. Therefore, innovators around the globe are developing locally appropriate alternatives that can be safer, more cost-effective, and more environmentally friendly. Often, an individual visionary can move faster and more effectively than any government. Like this man, who has developed a solution to sanitation for some of the world's poorest people.
I grew up in the slums, and growing up in the slums, you come across sanitation challenges every day. Every day when I go to bed and if I wake up, it's like, how can I make sure my brother, my sister, my cousin who is still facing sanitation challenge has a different life.
Dixon's company, Sanovation, is a truly local solution to a global problem, providing home toilets and waste treatment for 20,000 people in Kenya in an economically sustainable way.
We have 126 homes that we've been serving for the last 3+ years, and we are really excited to see the impact we make into these families week after week, month after month, years after years.
Ni mzuri juu unakuta kama initially we used to have a shared toilet that is used by the entire plot, and it was unsafe because most people are using and it's unclean, so it's not safe for me and my children. And right now I have a blue box that I can use at any time, and it's also secure because I can use it in the house. I'm so happy right now because my family is safe.
Sanovation collects human waste once weekly, employing 98 local workers to transport these materials to their centralized treatment facility. But Dixon isn't satisfied with simply offsetting the spread of disease. He's turning waste into a windfall.
Once it gets here, our first step is treating it with our technology that we just harness the sun and ensure all the pathogens are killed. After that, it goes to the next product that is from fishes. And it can be used as a replacement for the traditional charcoal. With this charcoal, there's low carbon emission compared to the traditional charcoal. It burns 3 times longer than the traditional charcoal. That saves money. On top of that, for every ton of this charcoal sold, 88 trees are saved. The sale of the products we make have the operation costs, so that makes our model very attractive and a good option to the government.
Sanovation is partnering with the local government to expand their reach across Kenya and beyond. This kind of partnership is crucial to expanding the impact of innovations like the Water Box, Magic Water, and Sanovation. But recovery of resources from water and sanitation are not just important in the developing world. Creative solutions are equally important in cities like Chicago, home to the largest water treatment plant on Earth, a city of 3 million residents, where millions of gallons of wastewater are discharged every single day.
We get about 750 million gallons of water per day on average. We could fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool in about 12 minutes. One of the pollutants that we want to remove from the water is phosphorus, because in excessive quantities, phosphorus in the waterway encourages algae to grow and other water plants. And if you have too much algae and too much water plants, it can clog the waterway.
While an excess of phosphorus damages aquatic ecosystems, the element itself is a key component of DNA, making it essential to all living things. But phosphorus is a finite resource that is disappearing fast. Scientists fear that there could be a global shortage of phosphorus as early as 2035. What if we could remove a pollutant from wastewater and mine the valuable ore of pure phosphorus? Short answer, we can.
Phosphorus is bound up in the organic material, which we separate from the water. When it comes at the end, it's kind of soupy, so we have to draw the water out of that. And when we pull the water out, the water is very concentrated in ammonia and phosphorus. Now, if we take that stream and doing a little bit of chemistry magic, add a little bit of magnesium chloride to that, turn it into a product now using some commercial fertilizer methods. And now we have a product that can be sold as an agriculture fertilizer. Only it's not just like any fertilizer. It's not just something that you would substitute for any other fertilizer because it's a slow-release fertilizer. What's better than turning a waste into a resource? And one that you can make money off of. There's a revenue stream for this. This is a commercial fertilizer. It's sold, and we get a piece of the profit.
The cruel irony of wastewater treatment is that there's actually more than twice as much energy in the wastewater as what you would need to be able to treat it. And so why are we putting so much energy into something to destroy the energy that's there? That's essentially what we're doing. It's crazy. We have these tremendous amounts of resources just flowing through our pipes. It's free, and then we're spending a ton of money to get rid of it.
Perhaps we need to completely rethink the concept of waste. As they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. While Chicago prevents the overgrowth of algae by removing phosphorus from this wastewater, one maverick thinker in southern Spain is deliberately encouraging the formation of algae, harvesting a simple yet overlooked resource.
Well, algae is actually the oldest organism on Earth because they survive with three little things: the sunshine, the nutrients, and the water. Here, we create our own algae. Rather than waiting for a million years, we do it in 3 hours. We have big basins we call raceways. That's where the algae grow. We keep them in there for 3 days. We feed them with wastewater. With flotation, we separate the algae from the water and pump into the digester where it gets converted into biogas or methane once we add the gas purification step. Nobody would believe how much oxygen algae can actually produce, and that oxygen from algae helps us to clean the wastewater so that we have clean water at the end, and that we have enough algae that we can harvest and use for biofuel. Toilet to tank is really what we're doing here. It was always my dream. I'm a car guy, and I'm passionate about cars. I can take my wastewater, put it in my car, and drive off into the sunshine. We could put these algae ponds all over Andalusia. Would be enough to fuel 30 million cars in Spain with biomethane. We can actually change the world little by little, step by step.
This kind of lateral thinking is also being applied to the problem, supplying fresh water in many different ways. Just as magic water imitated the Namibian beetle, other innovators are turning to nature for ideas to solve our water problems. Imitating nature in this way is called biomimicry.
Basically what we do now is we go out and find water of sufficient quality. We treat it a little bit as we need it. We use it, and then we throw it away. Nature doesn't do that. Nature recycles every drop of water on the planet. The water we have today is the water we've always had, and that water has been reused and recycled by nature for billions of years.
Attempting to replicate nature's own recycling process, scientists in Denmark looked for an answer deep inside the cells of our own bodies. They discovered a protein that can be accelerated and adapted into a membrane technology to purify water.
Peter showed up in my lab one day as a graduate, just after graduating with his little vial. He always carries around his little vial of aquaporin proteins. An average human has between, say, 40 and 50 different variations of aquaporin proteins in their body. They perform very important functions in regulating the flow of different materials. Think about what it would be like if you ate food or drank coffee, if that immediately went into your brain and had a stimulating effect on your brain. You'd kind of go crazy every time you drank a cup of coffee. And so your body has developed ways of regulating the flow of these different molecules in your body, and an important part of that are the aquaporin proteins. And that's an example where we've taken this biological entity, this biological protein, integrated it into a membrane.
Water. Using biotechnology, we take out the small aquaporin protein that filtrates water in all living cells, which is extremely efficient. It's not something we have developed. It's something that nature has developed through 3.8 billion years of evolution. We just stand on the shoulders of that evolution. 1 gram of this aquaporin protein can filtrate 700 liters of water each second. So we coat the surface of a membrane with this aquaporin protein, and then we get more natural water, and we can also, instead of filtrating water, we can actually extract water by fall osmosis. We can open the doors for an entirely new range of filtration products with this component that nature has given us.
Membrane technologies such as the aquaporin protein are also being employed to make dramatic leaps in our ability to extract fresh water from our oceans.
Seawater, by the name, is highly salinized. Water that you can get. In terms of next innovations in terms of seawater treatment, that's exactly where we are. We were talking about 40 kilowatt hours per meter cube of water treated in the 1960s, 70s. Now we are talking about less than 4 kilowatt hours per meter cube, which is a 90% reduction in energy for the same seawater treatment. We are looking at technologies which half that further.
We have an incredible array of exciting innovations today at our disposal that we did not have 20 or 30 years ago. We can create biomaterials from wastewater. We can turn wastewater into energy. We can purify water at a molecular level to do things that we could have only dreamed of doing a few decades ago.
At a leading water research center in Singapore, membrane technologies are also being employed to make dramatic leaps in our ability to extract fresh water from our ocean. Advancements in desalination will continue. Perhaps a simpler solution may be closer to hand, reusing the water we already have. On the Pacific coast of California, massive overuse of water due to population increase and industrial demands has caused record scarcities, sounding an alarm to the state that the old way of diverting water to the region is no longer a viable option.
In Southern California, we have a very dry climate. A certain amount of lifestyle and water usage relying upon outside sources of water, namely from Northern California and from the Colorado River through aqueducts that were put in decades ago. When we started looking forward, we knew that population was going to increase and outside sources are affected by the same drought here.
The Colorado Aqueduct transports water from the Colorado River to Southern California. The transport of water is extremely energy intensive, costly, and now unable to supply California's current demands.
This used to be a heavily agricultural area. It's called Orange County for a reason. It was full of orange groves, soybean fields. There's a long-time perception, not just in California, but in a lot of the U.S., that when you use groundwater, it's kind of a natural source. It's usually free from contamination. It's very good quality water. Then it will just replenish itself, right? Nature will do that for you. Rain, precipitation. It'll eventually recharge itself to the point where we can just keep using it. But natural precipitation is not enough. We can't rely upon nature alone. We thought, where else could we look? So there's man-made ways that we can recharge the aquifer to keep it sustainable. So that's when we thought, okay, let's take on this wastewater.
The whole team worked hard to persuade the government that using recycled water to refill the aquifers would enable Orange County to future-proof their supplies and avoid another drought.
The membrane technology is very good at removing contaminants and purifying water that was once thought unable to be treated. The great part about putting it underground is we lose virtually nothing. We actually lose more when you see a large reservoir or a lake. You lose a good 5% to evaporation. You almost have a natural protective cap, keeping it free from environmental contaminants. And so it's kind of nature's perfect storage bowl. We kind of hit the geological jackpot by having this large natural underground aquifer that, as long as we take care of it, can sustain all of our population.
Of course, in many parts of the world, large cities are continuing to deplete groundwater levels. While governments struggle to get a handle on the problem, that's where industry can step up. Mexico City, with its population of 20 million people, is literally sinking under its own weight, causing roads and buildings to crumble. Relying on governments to solve the problem isn't enough. To make a major impact worldwide will require the progressive engagement of some of the world's biggest users of water.
Industries need to rise up to bring this in the center of the agenda, invest in technologies to reuse water, recycle water, save water, so that the future generations are not in a bad place.
Industrial production frequently involves water usage on a massive scale. Whilst the cosmetics industry isn't the biggest offender, innovation and processes here have begun that could influence water usage in many areas of manufacturing. Because cleaning equipment between cycles is the most water-intensive part of production, it is here where the cosmetics company L'Oreal have made the most change.
I think for us as a company, water is important because we need it to operate effectively. And in the areas where water is critical, we have to do all what we can to reduce our impact on these communities, on these regions, by water using. So we have to reduce our water. We started with water efficiency to reduce our water needs, then to reduce water that we cannot reuse, and then to recycle. And we saw that water efficiency is not enough. So we started to think, what can we do? And it was so obvious, because we discharged wastewater. Resource for fresh water to replace city water. Then we came up with recycling projects. At the end of 2018, we had about 12 plants already running with recycling. Based on these positive experiences with the recycling systems, we wanted to push the system a little bit further, and we developed the concept of dry factories.
Dry factory means that 100% of the water needs for an industrial process is covered by the reuse of treated and recycled water. No city
Now we are rolling out the dry factory concept with priority to high water consuming factories and factories operating in regions where water is a critical issue, like here in Mexico.
If industry follows this leadership, the global water consumption for manufacturing could be drastically reduced by as much as 90%, depending on the type of industry.
We don't have the choice. We have to reduce our environmental impact. There is not a plan B. Everyone has to be aware and to contribute.
Cosmetic manufacturing is only one of many water-intensive industries. For example, textile companies like those in India are some of the largest consumers of water, and many of them have been major contributors to regional pollution, poisoning water with dyes, bleaches, and other chemicals, and leaving their citizens without usable water. In 2010, the government demanded that all dyeing and bleaching units must either clean up or close up, threatening 55,000 jobs. One textile factory owner in southern India rose to the challenge, discovering a sustainable solution and setting an example for other factories in the region.
In 2010 and all, there was a heavy problem related to effluent, untreated effluent which was discharged. The rivers were in color.
டையிங் ஃபேக்ட்ரி கெமிக்கல் ஃபேக்ட்ரி நிறைய இண்டஸ்ட்ரீஸோட கெமிக்கல்ஸ் வந்து நொய்யல் ரிவர் தான் கலக்குறாங்க. கெமிக்கல் எஃபெக்ட், ஸ்மெல்லு அப்புறம் நம்ம இறங்கணும்னா கீழே சேத்து புண்ணு வரும் காலில், கால் வலிக்கும் எரியும். அந்த எஃபெக்ட் எல்லாம் ரொம்ப இருந்துச்சு. இப்போ ஓரளவுக்கு கொஞ்சம் பரவாயில்ல.
Now we are putting on continuous efforts and the technologies are getting updated. The river which was colored 2 decades ago, now it is all fresh and clean, and now it is a total zero discharge unit.
Water from the dyeing process, including bleach, chemicals and salts, is now treated instead of being flushed into local waterways. And instead of taking water from the rivers, Rahul's company is reusing over 90% of its textile processing water.
இப்போ 2-3 வருஷமா ஒரு 5 years முன்னாடி இருந்ததுக்கு கொஞ்சம் பரவாயில்ல.
Effluent from our factory which has brine in it, colors in it, salts in it, that is taken to a plant wherein it is stored for about 24 hours in the bio. There it is all treated, it is taken to the softening plant and then to the membrane. From the membrane we get all the reused water, and the reject from that is taken to the evaporator wherein we get the salt after crystallization. The water from the membrane and the salt from the evaporator is used here. 90% of the water is returned. So everyone is participating together. The chemical, the dyer and the membrane suppliers. So it is all in a chain that we are developing ourselves. I think it is high time now that everyone will have to realize and start doing it. No one can dodge with us anymore.
In another part of India, the problem wasn't pollution, but supply. In 2019, a city of 10 million people experienced what was once unthinkable, but is now becoming increasingly common. Day zero, when a city simply runs out of drinking water.
Everyone is after one thing only in Chennai, and that is water.
Chennai is facing a lot of water crisis. Last year we didn't have rains at all. Groundwater is not there, and rainwater is not treated properly, and it's not connected to all the sources. And many apartments have to rely on tankers to supply them for water. Recently there was a water tanker strike for 4-5 days. They are left without having any water. Day by day it's getting worse. So people need to just do something about it.
Unlike most of Chennai's 10 million locals who are desperate for water in the face of this crisis, the almost 200 families in this Chennai apartment are not. How did these residents avoid purchasing costly water from tankers? Resourcefulness.
See, as a teenager, I've never thought about it much, but as a mother, I want to give important things like clean water to my kid. We went door to door explaining why we should have rainwater harvesting and how it is supposed to be done. Now they're all trained up, everybody is doing that.
As a committee commitment, we decided that we are not going to buy a single drop of water. So we have decided we are going to upgrade our sewage treatment plant. We are going to upgrade our water treatment plant. We are going to upgrade our rain harvesting system. It all goes through the rain harvesting trenches and it will lead to the well so that we are using the water where within our compound itself. Given us in a fantastic result. You can see behind me, there is a beautiful lush green garden. You may be thinking from where you are getting this much of water to make this greenery. No, absolutely, this is not a groundwater. This is water which we reused from the sewage treatment plant. So it looks lush and green.
When I look through my window, seeing all the other communities close by, I wonder if they have the same water management system as we do here in our community that would help solve all the water crisis problems.
We feel every drop of water is so valuable and we are not letting it waste. It's a win-win situation.
Once you start to deal with water more locally, and that's a systems level change, not a technology change, you reduce the capital costs and you make it much easier to reuse that water.
I go back to the issue of scarcity. Water reuse, we believe, is one of the smartest, most efficient ways for us to deal with that issue. So more and more of the landscape is moving into indirect reuse and going to full water recycling.
In California, we saw water conservation at a municipal scale. And in India, we saw Chennai residents of the building complex taking water supply into their own hands. But could that be scaled down even further? Absolutely. Here in the Netherlands, a group called the Dutch Water Alliance has introduced groundbreaking technology that allows us to recycle water right inside our own homes.
You see in industry, measures are being taken to use less water. You see it in agriculture. And so now it's up to us and consumers. And we're wasting so much water, and it's so easy because the water source is already at our house. The Hydroloop is a residential grey water recycling system. So it recycles water from bath, shower and washing machine, purifies it so it can be reused again for toilet flushing, washing machine, garden and swimming pool. We've created a very new and innovative way of cleaning the water. We're using 6 existing techniques. We've combined them into one, and they're all very simple techniques, and all together they treat the water in such a way that it's clean, clear and safe, and it's actually certified to the highest international standards, so it can be reused again.
Within 1 month, we save up to 3,000 liters of water, and that's a lot of water actually. And so annually, we save up to 30,000 liters of water.
It is our vision that in 20 years' time, no house shall be built.
I think if we don't start living sustainably, it will be a disaster in the end for the whole world, I think.
In 10 years' time, there will be 8.5 billion people on this planet, and if only 5% of those will be recycling their water in-house, it will actually stop the growth of water uptake on this planet. That really is the power of residential water recycling.
Let's do some contact with a test 1, 5, 4, 3.
Many innovations in water filtration were developed for applications far away from the blue planet we seek to preserve.
Deliver water to the International Space Station is very, very expensive. It's, tens of thousands of dollars per liter to get it up there. Water recycling is a big part of NASA's program. For instance, on the International Space Station right now, the only sources of water are recycled urine and recycled humidity condensate, which is the water in your breath that you generate from eating foods. We've developed some technologies that are associated with mimicking the function of your small intestine. You look at how does that work? How does that small intestine have this sort of regenerative capability? And then we go into the laboratory and we use genetic engineering and a variety of other techniques and applying it to making membranes to recycle the water.
5, 4, 3.
You could bring a cup of water, and that's all you would ever need. You could just recycle it around and around and around again.
We have a liftoff. Power clear.
It's truly inspiring to see these innovators, often with very limited resources, saving their communities and helping to stem the water crisis tide. But we can't simply leave the solutions to the experts, the engineers, the innovative visionaries. We all have a responsibility to act, and to act now, to create this brave blue world.
If we can look for the beacons and the examples where people are already doing this and it's working, that's what's encouraging. And then it's simply a question of adopting and accelerating that adoption faster. And a lot of what needs to happen is simply we have to think differently and embrace those new ideas. And that's down to each of us.
For some of us, action might take the form of pressuring local utilities to be more progressive in their approach to water supply and sanitation. For others, it might be applying our talents to become part of the solution. So ask yourself, what can I do today to be part of the solution? The answers are all around us. We can be more mindful of our own water usage and that of our family and friends. We can research new technologies like the ones we have just seen and apply them in our home, workplace, and community. We can support companies showing leadership in water management, and we can encourage brands we care about to rethink their water policies. We can pressure our local, regional, and national governments to take tangible action. Letters, emails, petitions, social media campaigns. These things can make an immediate and lasting difference.
This is a solvable problem, right? We know what the answers are. We've tested the answers. We've seen the answers out there. We know we can solve this problem. It's just a matter of putting together the business models, bringing all the pieces together, getting governments to provide the proper regulations to support, to allow water recycling.
I don't think it's technology that's holding us back from solving our water crisis. It has to do with finance and politics and policy.
Banks control 2/3 of the world's money. If those banks made it a requirement for every loan that is made that there has to be a water win at the back of that loan, what an amazing opportunity that could be.
One simple sentence to the public about water is demand more, demand better. It's there.
You know, it takes strong leadership to make decisions to go into areas that haven't been pursued before. But to do it because we know that it's the right thing. It's the right thing for our society. It's the right thing for the environment. It's the right thing for the future of humanity.
For some of us, action might simply take the form of recognizing the ineffable value of water and being willing to pay the price for such a precious resource, even in regions where water appears to be plentiful. Just as climate change has sparked grassroots activism across the planet, the water crisis too requires massive mobilization of people who truly care about our shared future.
I think, quite frankly, we create a movement amongst the younger generation, and they will simply not tolerate that we do things as status quo.
Each positive step we take, every innovation we employ, every progressive policy initiative we enact moves the needle further and further away from catastrophe.
This can happen in our lifetime. This has to happen in our lifetime, or we are looking at a very different world for our children.
We want to see the government committed in putting in money and supporting sanitation to be a reality to everyone.
We envision a day when everybody has access to clean water and sanitation, and we envision that in our lifetime.
We're on the brink of being hopeless, but we're not there yet. And if we really come together, we can make a difference. And if you look at these things around the world, you start to be inspired because you're like, we can make a difference.
Like, how lucky are we that we're the ones who get to solve this? You know, in 100 years, people are going to wish they could solve a problem this big.